And we are back at the 2025 Borealis Psychedelic Science Summit in Stockholm. My name is Yoshi, and I am joined now by Elin Stahre. Welcome, Elin.
Thank you.
I was trying to get your title right before we started recording, but I've had too many titles in my head today, so
understandable.
You're gonna have to help me out a little bit.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your background and then how you got into the psychedelic research space.
Sure. So I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, and I've worked around 15 years, mainly in outpatient clinics and general psychiatry in Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was around 5 years ago that I found my way to the psychedelic field, mainly through the research on MDMA for PTSD, or MDMA-assisted therapy for PTSD.
Right.
So I was working with a lot of PTSD clients, and I just started reading up on the studies that were ongoing, and the results were very promising. And as I was having clients that didn't recover through standard treatment, CBT or psychological treatment, that made me curious. So that was sort of my way into the field. I haven't worked with MDMA actually, so I've worked in 2 clinical trials with psilocybin for depression in Sweden. So one is the PSIPET, which was the first clinical trial on psychedelics in Sweden, and the other is the Compass Phase 3 trial, which is ongoing.
All right. First in a long time, but weren't there some in the 50s, I think, in Sweden?
There might have been a few.
I think I read like one of those old newspaper headlines.
Yeah, I think the research, if you can even call it that, I think there were some experiments,
Fair
which
enough.
they were
50s
trying.
were a crazy time.
Yeah, so not perhaps science or research in the way that we would call it, but yeah, there were some things happening in Sweden back in the days as well. Yeah.
Before finding out about these studies, before starting to look at MDMA, what were your opinions or preconceptions about the psychedelic field? Did you know about it? Were you curious already before? Or?
Actually didn't have that many preconceptions. I wasn't very knowledgeable about it. I had some friends that were invested in the field and that were engaged in the Network for Psychedelic Science here in Sweden. So that was also helpful in terms of finding out information about it. Also psychologists. Yeah. And in terms of background, I've also worked in the retreat setting. So I was a part of the company Nysna, facilitated legal psilocybin retreats for a couple of years in the Netherlands. I also work with integration in my private practice, among other things. So
okay, cool. I've had 2 of the founders of Nysna as guests on my podcast.
Great.
They do very interesting, or you do very interesting stuff. I guess. Have you been involved from the beginning with Nysna as well?
I was involved from early on. I wasn't part of founding the company, but I was involved starting the operation with the retreats in the Netherlands. Yeah.
All right. Cool. So you mentioned the 2 studies that you're involved with now. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what each study does, what you're researching, and how far along you come?
So I've been involved as a study therapist, so not on the academic side.
Okay.
And the first study, PSIPET, is... they finished the data collection. They haven't published yet, but it was a study on depression, psilocybin for depression. And I worked as a therapist, supporting clients through that process, or participants. The Compass Phase 3 trial is also on depression, but treatment-resistant depression. So just people who have been depressed a bit longer, tried more treatments that didn't work.
Okay.
But my role was the same, so working as a therapist, supporting them through preparation, dosing, and integration.
Okay.
Yeah.
What were the qualifications to participate in the PSIPET study? I thought it was also treatment resistant, but it's not.
Well, I actually believe it was just depression, but you didn't have to have tried several treatments that didn't work, etc. But yeah.
And how far along is the Compass study?
They just finished recruiting, so it's a big multi-center, multi-site study encompassing around 600 participants, and they just finished the recruitment phase. They will be dosing and treating for some time, but it's nearing the end, and they released some of the preliminary findings here a while back.
So the main part of your work is coming up then.
Yeah, actually, my part of that work is very, very minor since there are so many participants. I think I followed around maybe 6 or 7 participants out of the 600. So it's not a major part, but
it's
yes.
one important percent for sure.
Yeah.
6 individuals.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Cool. So did you say you've already started on that, or is it coming up with your part?
So the data collection phase, or the inclusion, where they include people in the study, just closed. So they have all the 600 included. So I'm actually on maternity leave, which coincided with that. So I'm not currently working in that phase, but in that trial.
All right. But after maternity leave, you'll be coming back to it.
I don't think they will be treating patients by then. They will probably already have published the results or doing the data analysis phase.
Got it. Well, my next question is going to be, what are you most excited about in your work right now? But I'm guessing it's your baby. That work is the most exciting and important right now.
Yeah. I mean, he's 5 weeks, and sure, everything else kind of fades into the background, which is, that's nice. Also, it gives you perspective when it comes to work, I think. However, I guess what I'm most excited about is, how this is going to go once we roll out the treatments, when they're approved, when the drugs or the treatment protocols are approved by the regulatory bodies. They're going to have to be sort of integrated into our healthcare systems. So I've worked a long time in psychiatry, in general psychiatry, outpatient clinics, and I know a little bit about what works and what doesn't in that context. And I think just bringing those worlds together, I think there's a lot to learn. That psychiatry could learn from this paradigm, the psychedelic paradigm. But there's also a tendency in the psychedelic field to, there's even a term for it called psychedelic exceptionalism, where you kind of have to invent the wheel, and based on the premise that psychedelics are so very special in their nature. And on the one hand, yes, they are. The experience is very different from what we usually experience. But I think in terms of bringing them to healthcare, there's a lot to learn also from existing models that work in healthcare in terms of providing support for people in vulnerable states. Perhaps not, there's not an abundance of that, but I think, for instance, which is my recent experience as well, having been through pregnancy and giving birth, etc. I think there are parts, for instance, of maternal care that really, especially perhaps in other parts of Europe, actually, that really works to that end, to support people through a transformative experience. Also in palliative care, and there is stuff also in anesthetics, where the healthcare personnel are used to being around people in altered states, basically. So there's a lot to sort of draw from. So also when we're bringing psychedelics to healthcare. But I think that that process makes me excited, and it's also where I feel that I could perhaps contribute, knowing quite a lot about both of these fields. But it's a challenging task, I think.
Of course.
Yeah.
That is the tricky part of the question. I mean, if these studies prove that psychedelics can help with depression or addiction or whatever it is, then what? The next step. There's not a lot of talk about that.
No.
Or at least I haven't heard a lot of talk about it. Are there good models for how to integrate this into society or healthcare?
Well, I guess to my point, not when it comes to psychedelics, but I think there are things that we could, look at and use as models. So, for instance, maternity care in Great Britain or in the Netherlands, where the relationship to the healthcare provider is very much focused on in order to make you feel safe going through this process of giving birth in that case, but it could also apply to a psychedelic experience. So just creating the necessary conditions, both when it comes to relationship to your healthcare provider, the setting, etc. I think there are also parallels when it comes to risk management, since I think there are people who are going to have this experience in a hospital setting because of risks present, or because they want to, they feel safe in that setting. But I definitely also believe that a lot of people are not going to feel the safest in a hospital setting, and just to provide different options. So perhaps, I don't know, other kinds of facilities or centers, or you know, in kind of a stepped care model, which is used in other parts of healthcare.
Something akin to what Nysna does.
Yeah, I mean that kind of setting could definitely be one option. Of course, depending on risk level. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your presentation here at the Borealis Summit.
So I didn't actually present. I moderated a panel on. No worries. So the question for the panel was the psychotherapeutic component of these treatments, and whether, you know, there's a debate in the field as to, you know, how extensive the therapeutic frame needs to be for these treatments to be efficient, but also sort of. Yeah, it's a charged debate, I feel. There are psychotherapists on the one hand saying, okay, I'm simplifying now, but for the sake of brevity. So psychotherapists saying, you know, we need to do a lot of psychotherapy and perhaps also maximize outcomes and benefit created by this plastic states induced by psychedelics. We're not doing enough in the current research protocols, such as the COMPASS phase 3 trial protocol, for instance. And then on the other hand, there's the concern regarding perhaps, or basically, I guess, just establishing what is the minimum amount of support or therapy. Do we actually need therapy in combination with these substances or not? But the fear also of creating a lot of risks for participants not providing enough support.
Yeah, that's one of the tricky aspects of psychedelics, that it's such a subjective experience.
It's a very subjective experience. It's also, I mean, it's new in the sense that we're combining psychotherapy with a psychoactive substance, which is something that the regulatory bodies are not used to. In the States, for instance, they only approve the substance.
Right. Wasn't there the big MDMA that was struck down by the FDA? I think that was one of the
last year.
The key issues, last year.
I think that was one of the concerns of the FDA. The fact that it was kind of hard to for them to even understand what the therapeutic component of this treatment was. And also the fact that that's not what they're approving. They're approving drugs for certain indications. So the whole paradigm is somewhat new, even though I would say in clinical praxis, we do combine treatments with psychoactive substances such as SSRIs and therapy. So it's not all that new, but again, there's this tendency to think that psychedelics are very exceptional in every way.
That's interesting. I would imagine that things are moving in a better direction when it comes to that, because more people are aware of the importance of the combination. It's not just the drug and it's not just therapy.
Yeah, we'll see. So the panel was kind of divided. There are sort of two fields, which is representative, you know, this and we don't know. We don't know how this is going to play out and whether the protocols for therapy are going to be very minimal. There's a chance that they might, because that's what will get these drugs through the approval stage. But then once they're approved, are they going to be combined with more therapy, or is it going to be sort of a scalability issue as well?
What a conundrum getting through the regulatory body with that.
It is a conundrum. I'm very happy I'm not involved with that particular thing.
I bet.
Yeah.
But yeah, you wanna find the minimum, obviously, required amount of therapy, but
yeah, I mean, that
you
could
also
be...
don't want to not give enough and put people in jeopardy in that way.
Yeah, I mean, from an industry perspective, of course you want to find the minimum, but there could be other perspective or aspects to it. Do we want to maximize benefit? There could potentially be even more, potential for growth and healing if we add more therapy, and we don't really know that as of today. So that was the topic of one of
That's interesting.
The panels.
You mentioned that the panel was divided. What were the two camps?
I would say the ones that I mentioned. So one sort of arguing perhaps both saying, we don't know. And I think that was the stance of everyone. You can have opinions, but we don't really have the research today to say this is the way forward. But I think the main opinion of the two parts of the panel, on the one hand, is minimal protocols are sufficient and beneficial, and safe, and that's all we know as of today. And on the other hand, the opinion that but we do know that insufficient amount of integration leads to risk and suffering and long-term adverse consequences for patients. That is something we know also. All
right. What's something you're excited about in the psychedelic field in general today or moving forward?
Yeah, so I think one thing is, which I briefly touched upon just now, the research on long-term adverse events, which can also be viewed as a potential for growth.
Right.
So even if you have a challenging experience, and even if that challenging experience extends in time, so you're worsened by the psychedelic experience basically for some time, that could be something that you could work with, and that you could have support to integrate into your life.
Work with as in it can be beneficial even if it was a negative adverse effect?
It could be, provided the right kind of support. So it's sort of a dual thing where you want to treat people who have long-term negative experiences from psychedelics because they exist, but you also want to be able to change that into a more of a growth perspective where they can actually benefit from that challenging experience. So I think that research is key if we're going to roll out these treatments at large, because a lot of people are going to then have benefits, but some people are also not going to fare well.
Yeah, that's interesting. Where can people find and follow your work?
So I'm not particularly active, but I do have an Instagram. So it's at Elin. I also have a webpage, so it's psykologelinstahre.se.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I've kept you away from your baby long enough now.
He's calling.
Thank you so much for having a chat with me.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks to everyone who tuned in. From the 2025 Borealis Psychedelic Science Summit, my name is Yoshi. Catch you next time.